Michael, who's in Vancouver. This is episode 110, brought to you by Tea Time Teas. And, this is an exciting day with the playoff happening and Rory winning his 28th PGA event against John Michael Jr. Spawn. Stick around. We'll have special guest Gary Williams from Five Clubs Golf and the Golf Channel. But first, we have Howard Blumenau from Tea Time Teas. Let's watch a video from our new partner.
This is kind of a cool comparison. With this Tea Time tee, it's so easy to get this ball basically on there as I hold this in my hand. If I go and use a traditional tee, it's very hard for me. Whoa, I can barely get that thing to stay on the tee. As you can see, it's got to be super balanced, but it's easy to fall off. This thing, I'm not even thinking about it. It just goes right on the tee, no problem.
All right, well, that was a pretty great video. I love the tees. Howard, how are you today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, guys. I greatly appreciate it.
100%. We're happy to have you.
Tell us a little bit about the product, and we're really interested to hear it.
So we came up with this concept of our bubble tees. We actually made two tees, an XT and a bubble tee, that could be utilized for the novice golfer, more geared towards the non-country club player who goes out and spends money on tees that aren't given away by clubs. That, people who are just looking for an edge, but something that's in regulation of USGA. So we came up with what we call our bubble tee, which Scott Hawkins, the professional at one of the country clubs, showed us. And basically, what the tee does, it's just a single-use tee. Everyone has to carry around typically 1, 2, 3 tees when they go play golf. One for a driver. Sometimes on a par 3, they're really not sure what they should use. They'll use a 2 3/4, and then even smaller. Sometimes you have someone who has like a 1 1/2, 1 1/4 inch tee. So what we did was we found by research, we started asking people going around to different public courses in the tri-state area where we started in New York, and asked people, how many tees you carry? What are you using? And they said, and they gave us all these variations, and then the light bulb just went off and said, we see out there with companies that make wooden tees and they paint strips on them. Why not take the same concept but give them the advantage of where to measure it? And we came up with the idea to literally create a bubble, so they know actually where they could measure the tee to, where it actually locks the tee in the ground. And the great part about the tee is it obviously holds the cup. Ball is made, the cup is made in a certain way that you can actually pivot the tee on an angle.
Well, that's very cool.
So, you actually take friction off the ball either way, front or back. But as well, you're not making contact with the tee. Now, wooden tees, if you ever watch professionals, we all watch, the Sawgrass this past weekend. Watch a professional player hit a tee. Every tee cracks. I'm sure you guys use wood tees. They all crack at the same time.
Yeah.
We've given these to pros, and the truth is, if they hit them fast enough, they're going to cap the top. If they hit, because they're speed of the club.
Right.
And with the novice player, what's happening is they're actually just utilizing the tee. So let's just say you're having a windy day. And so what you want to do on a windy day is you bring the tee down a little and you angle it forward into the wind. You could use this tee for a driver, a hybrid, an iron, a par 3, virtually anything.
Yeah.
And the best part about the tee is, so let's say you hit it really hard and it bends.
Yeah.
You bend it right back.
Well, that's pretty great, because most of those plastic tees that I've used in the past, and as a teaching professionals, even the plastic tees break quite often, where the top just rips right off, or it gets buried or bent. Obviously over time you may have to put in a new one, but obviously that looks like it's very durable. And I love the fact that juniors or beginners don't have to balance their tee. It's part of the one of the shaky things or the hard thing to get used to. The first time you're out on a golf course, or a senior or a junior has a hard time balancing the ball.
Right. So that's basically what we came up with, because we have teamed up with Under Armour Junior Golf Tour. We started out in Texas, Dallas, Frisco. We're working our way through Florida, Atlanta, all those different places. So for the juniors, we created a similar tee, and we don't claim it to have the same capacity as the bubble tee, but what we use for the juniors, and it's also on our video, it's an X tee. So the X actually fits right behind the finger. I don't know if you can see right there.
Yeah.
Basically, it lets the juniors who have small hands or an adult who has agility problems to actually place the ball one shot into the ground. And if you ever watch a senior citizen or someone with an agility issue play golf, they typically lean on their golf club, they bend down, put the tee in, they prop themselves up again, reach in their pocket, grab the ball, and then lean down again and place the ball. So we've had a great success with this with juniors specifically who have small hands and can't really hold the ball and the tee at the same time. You can do it too with the bubble tee, but our bubble tee is our core product that is now found in all retail stores. We're in Dick's, Golf Galaxy, PGA Superstore. We made our debut in Frisco, Texas, the new home of PGA, to overwhelming success. We've had a couple of years at the PGA Golf Show in Orlando. But one of the biggest things that we're proud of is our Play for Pink, which you have pictured up on the screen, the pink tees. For those familiar, Play for Pink is the largest the largest charity events that go out to country clubs and sporting events that support breast cancer research. And never has this organization allowed any product to use them as an endorsement. So what we did was we found there's so many different golf outings that are sponsoring Play for Pink tournaments and country clubs, over 2,700 a year. We teamed up with them and came up with the same idea of a pink tee that allows us to use their logo on the bag. And we give back, whether it be retail or wholesale, we give back 10% to charity of all sales of pink tees.
Amazing.
Well, that's amazing. Howard, it's incredible to have you on. We're so happy to partner with you. Guys, make sure you go to teatimetees.golf and pick up your tees. And remember, shipping is free when you order online when you go to that website. Howard, we'll talk to you soon.
Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks, Howard. Have a great day.
Thank you.
That's pretty amazing. Great partnership with Tea Time Tees. This has been a crazy weekend, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, with Rory McIlroy winning this event in a 3-hole aggregate playoff. And to join us here today will be Gary Williams from 5 Clubs Golf, as
Here
well from the Golf Channel and SiriusXM. And there he is, Mr. Gary Williams. How are you?
Gentlemen.
Great to see you, Gary.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's a lot's been going on since we've seen you last. We're really excited to have you.
Listen, it's good to be with you guys. And just so everybody up there knows, I love Canada.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for putting it out there. I know there's been a lot of, sort of damn Republican kind of talk about everything. Even up here, we're all up in arms with things. But, we got to get along. We're your oldest friends.
Yeah. Well, in reality, we do. We do get along famously. But there's a little bit of political turmoil, and I think it will pass, and we can carry on. But it's rallied some efforts in Canada here. Like a lot of people don't know, we have interprovincial border restrictions, trading from province to province, and the country's finally lifting those. And there's some good things coming out of it. And we don't normally get into politics on the show, but
I don't want to either. I just want to make it I love coming to Canada. There's not a Canadian I know that I don't have great affection for. So
outstanding. Well, we know, Gary, you were there. We saw some pictures on social media and a few things that you did. I don't know if you're back in North Carolina, but if you're just joining us on the Golf Podcast Live, we've got Gary Williams from 5 Clubs Golf. What a great podcast. It's developed into something that I never expected it to grow so fast and to have such great guests along with it getting on the Golf Channel and SiriusXM. So congratulations with all of your success, your recent success. Tell us a little bit about your experience. You were there. Maybe a few things we could talk about. the whole production, the setup of the golf course, maybe a great place to start.
Yeah, guys, it's interesting. I should have had this picture handy with me because I got to put it right up here. I played the golf course the year that Jerry Pate won in 1982. I was 14 years old, and I have a couple of pictures. One, my tee shot on 17, and then my father. You got to, if you guys can only imagine, cameras back then a little antiquated. My dad actually laid down behind the hole. I had about a 30-footer, and not that he had intuition I was going to make it. I did. I then made a 7 the next time I played the hole. But to have kind of a life of a modest number of experiences, but from my teenage years to going there recreationally with friends, to now having gone back there a number of years to cover the event, it's such a good event. It is such a fantastic facility that they have spent a ton of money, which produces a ton of money, which is a great thing, to continue to improve it. The infrastructure, the footprint, the way that people can get around there. There are so few bottlenecks. It's a superior sporting venue. And I love going. The weather was great. Unfortunately, a week ago today, when I was traveling down there was a system that was going through that softened the golf course up. And it brought great weather on the back end of it, as we all enjoyed, whether it was being there or viewing it. Mm-hmm. And so it was a great week for watching golf. It was a good week in terms of the way the golf course was set up. I thought it was not too soft. Look, they knew they were going to have control of it by the weekend, which they did. And we saw that it became increasingly more difficult and resistant to scoring. I thought it was ideal. If you went out there and put together great ball striking rounds like Tom Hoagie did yesterday, you were going to be able to go out there and shoot 65, 66. If you were off just a little bit, your errors were going to be exacerbated. So I thought in total, it was a fabulous week for the PGA Tour. They got a champion that they can celebrate. Whoever wins, they're going to celebrate. But look, one of the great players of his generation, one of the greatest players of all time, won for the second time. I thought it was an outstanding week all the way around.
Mm-hmm. Rory was a perfect champion for St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Right? And there's so many stories on the table with Bud Cauley. There's the Walker kid who was, I think he's in the bathroom in the locker room at 7 a.m. And got the call that he was in. So what an epic week for him. It was a treat to watch. One thing I loved about it, this course, I haven't played it before other than on PlayStation. But the difference between the cuts from the fairway to the first cut and the second cut and the contours around the greens, and it was just golf architecture on display, and that's what I really loved about it. And all I wanted to do was get my 60-degree wedge and go around any of those greens and just drop a bucket of balls and just hit creative shots, and it's such a beautiful facility.
What you said about some of the different storylines, I agree with you. All the points you're making only amplify the fact that moving it back to March made sense. It should be in March. The golf course is totally different. It's not as good in the month of May. It sets up the schedule in a far superior cadence of delivery, from obviously the players to the Masters to now the PGA US Open Championship. You roll right into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Mm-hmm. And as far as some of the guys you mentioned, there are examples every year of a couple of things. One, that this golf course does not either reward or discriminate based on style. It does not overly reward great length, because it is, along with Pebble Beach, the least reliant golf course on driver production in terms of the number of times players in the field are going to hit driver, which only speaks to Rory doing it in ways that we're not necessarily accustomed to doing it. He's now won it at the two golf courses least reliant on driver. But it allows so many different styles to contend. We see that every single year. It also, in pointing out Bud Cauley and Danny Walker, who I actually followed on Thursday morning. I had the intention of going out and watching Wyndham Clark, Jason Day, and Jordan Spieth. Jason Day withdrew. Here comes Danny Walker, teeing off on number 10. And you're going, okay, this will be a nice couple of days for him, and down the road he's going to go. And he wound up not only making the cut and then having a fantastic weekend, made $850,000, totally changed the outlook of his year.
Yeah.
But guys, what it also does, because you can look through the history of this event, the number of guys who not only played well, but came close to winning, that proves how many guys are capable. And it's not just guys capable of winning the John Deere or winning the Cognizant Classic or the Barracuda, of winning the Players' Championship. Now the latest is JJ Spawn. I went back and I looked at runners-up since this event found its home there in 1982. And I'm talking about guys like Anaban Lahiri, Bob Eastwood, Scott Gump, Tommy Tolles. The PGA Tour is shrinking their workforce at a time that more guys are capable of making a living and contending and winning than ever before, which I think is counterintuitive to what they should be doing. So, like you said, it's a great celebration of an architect who was ahead of his time in Pete Dye, who came along during what I think was the dark ages, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where it was all predicated on real estate, and built a golf course around these lots we want to put homes on. Mm-hmm. He's a bold thinker. This was his boldest work. And Dean Beeman bought the land for $1.
For $1, that's right. It's pretty amazing that we all know who John Michael Jr. is right now. Mr. Spawn himself, he's very modest. He's obviously a great player with one PGA Tour win under his belt. But, let's talk about the pros and cons a little bit more about this golf course. Obviously, it's a target-style golf course. It looks like, you're going from point A to point B, and if you're not, you're looking at a tough shot. Rough looks like it's a little bit longer. I love the fact that Lucas Glover, which was my pick early in the week, just because he was top 3 in GIRs for 2025 and also in fairways and regulation, he's in the top 3 as well. And he was the only player that had both of those statistics, and I thought that would play well. The fact that he did as good as he did, it did surprise me, but he was a pick of mine. But the changes. Now, Gary, I'm a big fan of the way this course is set up, but these new Davis Love setups on 14, all of that on the right looks like new sod. It was thick. You could almost see the squareness of the sod. It was too thick. A great example of that was Will Zalatoris trying to get out of there. And then you've got all that fescue and all that pine straw. It looks way too decorative. It's like if my wife was trying to design the golf course and would kind of put these little seedlings and trees in the way. I don't like it. I don't mind the mounding because it keeps them from going into the garbage and they still have a chance. But it's just too decorative. All the new changes. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Having made a point of going out and seeing the particular changes and of course the tree that was, was a different tree, but planting that tree at the front of the 6T. With respect to 14, I thought that their intent, I support the intent. I understand completely what you're saying about the optics of it. Like anything, it needs time to grow itself in. It's almost like you could see the seams of the sod that was laid down there. That is one of the most difficult holes in championship golf. I like the look. Again, I'm going to refer back to my own experiences there. That place, when it was built, was primitive. It looked native. It looked like, my God, if I turn to the left or the right, I'm sure there's a 12-foot gator right next to me. Mm-hmm. It's become, naturally, in time, everything is going to become more sanitized. Now they have double wide cart paths for people to get things out onto the golf course. I like what their intention is. It needs time for all those ornamentals to look much more natural than it currently looks. It looks foreign. It looks artificial. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. I did not like what I saw in photographs of the 6T, and then I went out there and saw it. And before they had struck a competitive shot, I totally supported what they were doing with that, because these are the best players in the world, and them having to do something which they can do, which is have to create a shot that has to take into consideration that obstacle, which is that tree that's now on the front of the portion of that tee. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying about the right of 14 fairway.
That tree, it was a shame to lose the other tree, but
Yeah.
what a job they did to move that from the woods out into position and replant it. Hopefully, it lasts for a long time. I don't know anything. I'm not an arborist, but I'm hoping that tree grows its roots. And all I'm thinking about every time I watch a shot off that is like, I'm going to hit that limb hanging out over the tee shot, and I'm going to be hitting my second from right underneath it. So
well, think about Rory yesterday. He did not miss one of those 3 irons off the tee. He removed his 5-wood, put the 3 iron in the bag for just yesterday. And he striped that club with the exception of that one tee shot. He hit a wipey and he wound up getting a huge break and then really produced one of the best shots I thought he struck the entire week. That one and his second on 18 on Thursday, I thought were the 2 most ingenious shots they produced. But it made these guys think. It made them get up onto the tee and make a decision. Not only height, flight, but also the club they were going to use. And that's what I want. These are the best players I want. I don't want them to walk around in a catatonic state, knowing before they even stand on each tee what they're going to do. And it does not look out of place because, to your point, it existed previously. They're just returning the feature that died.
Yeah.
Let's really quickly just talk a little bit about the players, not just the golf course. I know you need to go, Gary. Let's talk about some great stories. And the reason why the PGA Tour is known for its cuts, its players making it through, and wonderful stories like Bud Cauley and Danny Walker. Now, Bud Cauley is obviously a local. It's great to see the underdog story always kind of bloom into a wonderful story that everybody talks about. Your thoughts about those 2 players?
Look, I would add Lucas Glover, even though Lucas won twice 2 seasons ago at 45 years of age, looking to become, one of the oldest champions ever. And the guy battled his ass off all the way to the end. Bud Cauley is somebody who, for people to give a little context to what a prodigy he was coming out of the University of Alabama, since 1980, when Q school used to matter, like everybody's pathway to the PGA Tour required the gauntlet of that 6-round experience. He avoided that. You know who else did from 1980 on? Gary Hallberg, another prodigy, who was the low amateur at the U.S. Open in that particular year at Baltusrol. Justin Leonard, who won the U.S. Amateur, and then, a couple years later, won the Open Championship. Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Ryan Moore, one of the most decorated amateurs of all time. And Bud Cauley did the same thing. And it's not that you earmark him for 15 wins and a couple majors, but what we thought was going to be a productive career uninterrupted by a horrifying car accident, which has taken him 3+ years to get himself back physically, not to mention how mentally debilitating it must be in terms of belief to go out there and try to compete. He knew what was on the line. He has a finite number of starts on his major medical to give himself fully exempt status for the balance of this year and going into next year. And the guy pulled it off. He pulled it off by finishing in a tie for 6th. He's going to be on our program on Wednesday on Golf Channel. I'm looking forward to having a long conversation with him about this journey. And then Danny Walker, who also lives in the greater Jacksonville area, 29 years of age, went to the University of Virginia, gets the call, like you said, he's in the bathroom. He's the first alternate. Jason Day pulls out. He's not in just some, by the way, grouping. He's with Spieth and Wyndham Clark, and he goes out there, handles it exceptionally well, and he finishes, in the top 10 and makes $850,000. His year's made.
And he was a spectator last year. He was walking around watching the guys. And now, he's up there with all the boys. It's fantastic. It's a great
like a win, right? That just takes
all the
pressure off.
It's a win. I mean, there's always wins inside. We give one person a trophy. There are other guys who win big.
Yeah.
Danny Walker and Bud Cauley are big winners.
Absolutely. The Cauley's year is he's on easy street. So in some way, that pressure's off, and maybe that just uncaps some great scoring and some good finishes. And You never know what can happen from here. Maybe he gets a win.
No doubt about it. And he was playing with Lucas. Both those guys were scuffling along. They're with JJ Spawn, who's not playing particularly well. I give all three of them credit. Like you guys know, the horn blows, they go in. These guys are on ice for 4 hours. They go back out there, and all three of them, think about what JJ Spawn did. He was 3 down with 6 to go to Roy McIlroy, hits the shot of the week on 14 to a foot, gets up and down with 16, and he's not a good chipper and putter. And then he makes a great lag putt on 17 and almost guts it on 18. And then
the 2 putt.
Lucas rolled it over the edge on 17 to get to 11 under with a chance to make birdie on 18 to get into the playoff.
He almost made the bird on 17 to go to 11 under as well. And JJ Spawn, with that lag putt that you talk about, Gary, was incredible, because what he did on 17 and then put it in the pine grass less than a yard into the pine, and then he slips and still got his club on it. Right, his foot slipped underneath him, and he put it in really nicely. Missed the putt on 18. He had the line. It was getting dark. Everything was slowing down. But that's golf. Obviously,
one more full rotation of that ball, and it finds the cup.
It was when he hit it. I'm going, oh my God, this may go 5 feet by.
Yeah.
For him to release the putter and for that to be online in the throat and just come up, like you said. That ball rotates completely. That's on the doorstep and probably falls in.
Yeah.
A lot of boys could talk like that. Kevin Chappell when Jason Day won, Martin Keimer with Jim Furyk missing the putt, Matt Kuchar winning, and then Zach Johnson, all the runner-ups from Paul DeGoitos to Jay Haas and Patrick Harrington. There's so many. Because it's such a new championship. And it's supposedly, I don't like calling it the 5th major. I like calling it the flagship event of the PGA Tour. And it sort of launches the season with all the biggest player timing wise. Again, Gary, you got your spot on just before the Masters. Gives us a feel on who's coming into their own and who to expect to play well coming into that first and second week of April.
Yeah, I love all those names you mentioned. I love looking back and thinking about those, look, David Lingmerth was second to Tiger in 2013. Yeah. He was the last line of defense for Tiger. That was Tiger's 5-win season. He was the player of the year, and that Players didn't win a major. That Players was his best win of that particular year. And David Lingmerth, stood tall that week. So, and you're right. And one last thing about Rory, it's interesting because this is a monstrous victory for him.
Yes.
But I know what a lot of people are thinking and feeling, and especially people who don't necessarily are not like you guys and me, who are just dimple heads and we're total golf nerds. And they look at this and they kind of dip their toe in golf 4 weeks out of the year. And they go, talk to me when he gets to Augusta National.
Right.
And that's what it almost in some ways with like mainstream sports media works in a counter way for him. It's like, okay, well, this just means he should be more of a favorite at Augusta National. Look, he may be, I don't know, he may go from 12-1 to 10-1. I have no idea. But in this moment, it's a great win because one, couldn't just hit driver with total liberty, didn't have his best stuff, drove it all over the lot, was ingenious, used guts, guile, made a 4.5-footer on 18 on Sunday. What if that doesn't go in and he doesn't win? And now everyone's replaying the short misses at Pinehurst as he goes towards Augusta National. Think about how different things can be. That
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. He opened up the door yesterday when he had a 3-stroke lead coming back from the weather delay, gave Jay Spawn an opportunity to kind of nip at his heels and catch up. Meanwhile, he was kind of losing ground there. And, I think he's a little bit of a head case. I'm not a huge Rory fan. Mike knows this. I like Rory as a player. I respect him for what he says. But when he starts talking, he sticks his foot in his mouth a lot and he doesn't own up to it. He didn't start off the week very well by, stealing someone's phone. All right.
One of the weirdest episodes. Imagine one. And it's funny, guys. I saw that kid Tuesday. I was talking to John Fields the head coach at Texas. They had just won an event. They won the team title, the individual title. They're all milling around. And lo and behold, one of the kids who's standing right there the next day, he's like, first of all, what are you doing saying something like that? You are going to be a professional soon enough. I mean, even being inebriated wouldn't make it make sense. And equally as odd is Rory walking up to him and taking the phone.
Yeah.
The whole episode was so bizarre.
It was right.
It was bizarre.
For heckling, that was a foul ball, and as a budding professional, he should know.
Well, you're young. You're young. Everything has changed.
Sure.
2015. I go out to events at the Canadian Open, for example, or we go to the President's Cup. You know, people are yelling, and I feel like I've been transported into some sort of different sporting event. I'm surprised on how much the crowd heckles and yells now compared to when I used to attend events not that long ago. I know I'm 50. Going on 51. I'm not that old, but, you know, I did attend events, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s. Very different crowd situation altogether.
It is. There's no doubt it is. But let me say this. This was not late on Saturday where the kid was 12 deep around 5,000 people. This is during a practice round where he's feet away from him. This is a quiet environment. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's true.
Again,
that's true. He should know better. He's young. He's young. He made a mistake. He apologized. He felt like an idiot. But, you know, doesn't excuse Rory.
It was a mistake. Like, what are you doing as well?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and to the kid, like, why didn't he see that coming? Like, if I was the dumb kid, I'd be like, I'm not giving you my phone because you're throw it in the water. So
it was weird how he just kind of held his palm up and Rory just took it. It was the most.
There were lots of memes with you know, there was an arrow along with the Google map showing where his phone is in the middle of the lake, in between 17 and 18.
Now, what I would love to have seen is this kid say that to Kevin Kisner. Should have that been him on the tee. Kevin would have said an epic comment that would have probably required a couple bleeps and carried on, and we would all be laughing.
Kevin's also about 5'7", 155. Yes, he could have audibly undressed him. I'm thinking of somebody, I don't know. I mean, Brooks Koepka was a pretty beefy dude.
Yeah, Perez back in the day had his choice words with the crowd.
Perez would have given him a knuckle sandwich.
Was like 10 years old.
Pardon me?
Pat had a moment. I think it was in Reno. I may be mistaken. It was some event on the West Coast or out in Nevada where it was like some like little kid, not like a college kid. This kid was like 10 or 11 years old. Anyway, but you're right. Look, it was regrettable on all parties. And it is interesting that the week started that way and the week ends on St. Patrick's Day with him winning and becoming one of four guys with multiple majors and multiple players: Jack, Tiger, Scheffler, Rory. That's a nice tall table, small tall table.
If he stopped playing golf now, he's got a Hall of Fame career. And something to be proud of.
Yeah. And well, look, he had a Hall of Fame career when he won his third. There's nobody living or dead with three majors who's not in the World Golf Hall of Fame. He is, you know, if people want to say Koepka because he's got 5 and Rory's got 4, I think it's more nuanced than that in terms of who's the best of his generation. This guy's won 28 times, 28 times in the best tour in the world. You know, he's a win away from joining Lee Trevino and Gene Littler. Yeah. My God.
It's amazing.
I mean, that's remarkable, heady stuff. And all these guys that he joined Leo Deagle and Paul Runyon, who played in the 30s and 40s when there was like 10 guys who could play. And I mean that respectfully, but it's true. I mean,
that's right.
He's doing it now. There are very few guys. You got to go to BJ. You got to go to Phil. You're getting up into, this is tall cotton. He's going, when you start getting into the 30s and you start looking at those names, you're going, okay, wow.
Yeah, he's getting up there, you know, Al Geiberger, you know, you're looking at Lanny Watkins and Raymond Floyd, and it's great. It's really great to talk golf. You know, you've been so generous with your time. Big shout out to Stephen Ames, 2006, who were winning, but also Corey Connors right now having a great run. If he could learn how to putt, it would be wonderful to see him play well, and his time will come.
How about if Colin
That's
could
true.
putt?
Yeah.
There's another iron striker who's just right on top of his game. He's not all there. I think I get another head case. Scotty Scheffler with so many things we didn't talk about, Gary. I could go on forever,
That's
but
why
I don't
we
want
have
to hold.
do this again.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. So listen, Gary, have a great week. Congratulations once again. You can catch Gary on 5 Clubs Golf, SiriusXM, and the Golf Channel. Mike, you want to sign off with something?
Well, always happy to have you. And we always talk about having a pod-to-pod match against you and Johnson Wagner. And someday would love to make that happen.
I mean, do you see Johnson this week?
I did.
He's thinking about coming out of retirement.
Yeah, well, what he was doing on 16 in the dead of night with a little bit of a spotlight, doing those chips into and with the grain downhill, that was pretty good. That was all within like 6 feet, I think.
Did you hear Paul McGinley? He said, "Do you have a twin brother? Because there's no way you could be hitting these shots." No, listen, guys, it's good to be back with you guys. It's great to see your faces. Masters is around the corner. Championship season's upon us. I appreciate so much how much you guys are dedicated to having conversations, great conversations about the game of golf.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Well, moving on to the Masters, obviously we could talk to Gary about a lot of things. However, time constricts us, and we really held him up because we were supposed to be on for 5 minutes. It really turned into about 25 minutes.
He's very generous
with
his time with
yes,
us.
He is.
Every time he agrees to come on, it's we always run overtime. Yeah, we're very thankful for that. Such a knowledgeable golf aficionado. His knowledge of the game and history, and being able to pull up who finished third place from a tournament in the 90s. It's unbelievable. He's a true encyclopedia.
Well, Mike, you and I are quite knowledgeable. If we were doing this on some sort of full-time basis, we'd be getting much better at what we do as well. We've been talking for 30 years, so this is why we started the show. This is why we're trying to engage people, not only in the media, but players and sponsors, and just create a really fun environment. Coming up for the Masters, not only do we have a new partner with Howard Blumenau and Tea Time Teas, let's not forget Shape and Swelter. We've got our Masters contest coming up very soon with Shape and Swelter. We're going to be giving away a lot of those cap sweat pads. And so please stay tuned to all of that. So what did you think? Do you think Rory's up to continuing this and possibly making a run at the Masters? I know there's a lot of variables. The Live boys are coming back too.
Yeah, it's hard to predict when you got 100+ guys in a field who's going to be the one holding the trophy at the end of the week. But he is trending. He's won 2 events in a very short period of time, the shortest, I believe, in his career, to have 2 wins, and having the confidence of taking down the Players' Championship, heading to Augusta, is only going to help him. I think he's got enough experience that pressure isn't really going to be a factor. It's really what comes down to it on those during the tournament once he tees it up on Thursday. And see how it goes, if he can ride momentum and definitely not shoot himself out of it in the first couple of days, keep himself hanging around so he does get to the final day and that final 9 and having that chance. He is wonderful to watch. His swing, his ball striking, when he's on, forget about what happens off the course, but when he's on the course and his game is on, he's really hard to beat, and it's beautiful to watch. Off the course has been distracting for him over the last few years with the Live controversy. He was pretty much the PGA poster boy during most of that, and it had a big impact on his game. Now that he's taken that off of his plate, he's focusing on his game the last year. The fruits of those efforts are now visible.
Oh, you got that right. And, looking back at the Players' Championship, moving into the Masters, one of the players that I thought was really going to tear this course apart with his target style golf was Ludwig Oberg. And although he's going to be a favorite at the Masters once again, he did not perform at the Players, and if anything, just a terrible way to plot your way around the golf course. It just goes to show you how 16, 17, and 18 really messes you up.
It's a hell of a finish. You got you think you got a par 5, a par 3. You're going to go through that. If you didn't know the course and just looked at the scorecard, you'd think, oh, the easy birdie on 16, but it's not. You get in the wrong position. All of a sudden, you're trying to chop out of 6-inch rough. In some places that from TV, it looked extremely thick. And we all know how hard it is to hit a shot out of there, or sometimes you're forced to lay up. But it's a great tournament course. It's true golf theater, and that's what Pete Dye intended when he designed this golf course, was to create a stadium effect. Hence the name, the Stadium Course, or PGA West has a stadium course with the mounds. That's meant for the spectators to be able to stand on them, and it creates that amphitheater effect around the golf holes, and it's a true masterpiece.
Now, when you look at the Masters, any names come to mind? I guess some of the favorites. Maybe you could pull up the roster over at the Masters on the Masters website. I think they've got all the people on there. It's under invitations or invitees, they call it. Invitees. Can I speak English? I cannot sometimes.
That could be a golf product.
That is invitees. So, one of the things that really catches my eye, Mike, and we've talked about it on a personal level. We certainly have not talked about it on the cast, except for the mention. But Angel Cabrera is somebody that is going to be playing, which is pretty crazy altogether. Your thoughts on a player like that coming out and playing at the Masters after all this time that's passed?
Well, I mean, you think about it, in the last few years, he's been in prison for 2 of them, which is a unique scenario for the PGA Tour. And for anyone who doesn't know what the reason was, it was domestic abuse. I don't know exactly what the details are, but he served time. And I don't know, you don't really have much opportunity to work on your golf game, I would have to assume. So coming to Augusta, he is, what is he now, 53 or something? He's got to be around there.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but when you don't play golf at a high level, you can't go into a stage like that and be expected to perform. So if he made the cut, that would be unbelievable.
Angel Cabrera, he's making is that, is this right? I'm reading his bio right now, but this is his 21st Masters start. I can't believe it was back in 2009 he last won, and it was a playoff over Kenny Perry and Chad Campbell. And he was South America's first tournament champion. He was runner-up in 2013 to Adam Scott. Let's not forget, he won the 2007 U.S. Open.
He's a hell of a player. He's a fantastic grinder. But this is kind of a unique situation, not being able to have been playing a full schedule. Even if he was on Champions Tour playing a full schedule, at least he would have his short game touch and all of that dialed in. And we'll soon see. It's going to be a topic. And what's going to happen in the media room? Are they going to be grinding him about his past and his prison sentence? Is that going to be a distraction? It's going to, the Augusta National Committee is probably not going to be wanting to hear much about that. So we shall see. It's one of those side stories at Augusta that we'll see how this unfolds.
Also, Corey Connors is probably going to be a favorite for most Canadians. He's coming out of some good form. Obviously, a great iron striker. It's just he's got to clean up his putting. And, he makes his residence now in Jupiter, Florida. I'm thinking that he's getting more of a feel for these greens, how tight they are. And obviously he's a multiple winner. He's finished inside the top 10 at Augusta National in 3 consecutive years. Remember, in 2020, 21, and 22, he finished inside the top 10. And so it's looking pretty good for him as well.
Yep. No, absolutely. There's, Oberg, just because he didn't play well at the Players doesn't mean he won't contend. There's a lot of players here. Batia played very well this last weekend and as of late. There's really the Masters could go any direction.
Obviously
been playing quite well. He's really come into himself over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. And then you got the live guys. I love the fact that Bryson DeChambeau is coming back.
Absolutely.
With his, he's had almost, I guess, 10 Masters starts. He was low amateur back in the day. And, he finished runner-up to Xander Schauffele at the PGA Championship in May. So that's pretty fresh. Obviously, when winning the U.S. Open at Pinehurst #2 is a big deal. And so he's a major champion, and he's really a force to be reckoned with. Now with his new golf clubs and his newfound confidence, I think his games is staying sharp, being on the LIV Tour. I mean, the competition there is no joke. There is a half a dozen players that aren't that great. However, if you're playing against, Koepka and Cam Smith, and Neiman, a number of players that are playing really well out there.
There are a lot of great players out there, and sure, there's a few, for lack of a better word, duds. But they have implemented relegation from the first year till now. The fields have strengthened quite a bit. We know they're not going anywhere. And the dust will settle between the PGA Tour and LIV, and that's just going to be more controversy as that whatever deal ends up taking place. But at the end of the day, we do want to see the best players in the world playing together. I miss seeing Brooks out there. I miss Dustin Johnson being out there, and there's stories going around now about Dustin kind of being done and in the twilight of his career, and I don't know if that's the case. He is a great player. Let's not undermine his career. He has performed at a high level for a long time, and is he complacent out there? Who knows? But I miss seeing him on the tour. I miss seeing Mickelson, right? And we know he's a bit older now and may not contend, but he's on fire lately.
Yes.
Right. So at least we're going to see him at Augusta. How he performs is another thing. There's good old Patrick Reed. He's golf's villain. But I miss seeing him in the field. With all of his little controversies and stuff, he just added a dynamic to the field. So it's
well, he'll be there. He'll be there, right? Yeah. Patrick Reed is a former winner.
Absolutely.
At the Masters, so I'm looking forward to seeing him, and he's got a short game like no one else. If anything, he's up there with the top 20 short games in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty exciting to see. I'm wondering, we didn't get our invite to the Masters again, although we've tried. We were refused. That's okay. We're a
now that you get the email.
we got the email.
Okay.
From Augusta, but that's okay. Yeah, I'll try again next year. But I'm wondering if they have anything set up for YouTube content creators or just content creators in general from social media or from YouTube that are coming on. It was obviously a great success to have the Creators Cup during the Players. The commentary was really great on the Golf Channel. People showed up. And not only that, I think it proved the point to the PGA that after having 954,000 streams on their PGA YouTube site, after even airing the event on, cable and satellite, pretty great numbers for YouTube and the Creators Cup.
I watched some of it, and it was entertaining. And some good golfers, right? Like
Yeah. Well,
um,
Grant won.
Ellen,
Grant Horvat.
and he's won a couple of these fun events now. He won the other one that was out in Arizona, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and he's got a hell of a game. There's some really good players out there. Kyle Berkshire was out there. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Bob does sports. Fat Perez.
Fat
You know,
Perez, he's a solid player. I think I saw he was a .08 cap or something like that. So it's
yeah.
very solid golf.
But in general, I think they should have more people from that community to really create something. Like if they have all their own content creators on the golf course, along with the PGA Tour footage, at the same time, they should all be shooting, because it just only helps the PGA Tour to get that exposure. I think they're almost afraid they're going to have higher numbers for a fun event like that, which is good. Why wouldn't they want? They had Gabby Golf Girl, Roger Steele, like you mentioned, Kyle Berkshire, Grant Horvat. Some of them I didn't know. I don't know who Tisha Allen is, or
Ryan Brothers.
or Solly or Soli from No Laying Up. I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who he was. And the other guy, Trent, who just made he made an 11 on 17.
Right.
Right, and it's actually interesting to see the kind of publicity and notoriety some of these guys have, and I mean that guy couldn't he couldn't break 100 on that course, right. But most of them are pretty decent golfers who were maybe trying to play pro golf. Tisha Lind, I believe, played on the Symetra Tour. I might have that wrong, but she did
Okay.
actually play in some professional golf, and I've seen her swing online. She's a player. So yeah, it was fun, and in reality, all of these personalities, and that's exactly what they are, have huge followings, huge fan base, and it's great promotion. You see the corporations getting behind them, Callaway, and a lot of them. They have very intellectual market researchers. They know what they're getting into. They don't invest into anything that's not going to give an ROI. So I think it's great. You're right. I don't.
It was sponsored by YouTube.
Yeah.
It was brought to you by YouTube. So I remember them saying brought to you by YouTube, and it's so there is some partnership there with that platform, which is that's a pretty big. You don't see YouTube involved with too many things, so that's pretty great.
I wouldn't anticipate the Masters getting on board with this yet.
Very traditional, right?
Right. Maybe
Yes.
give it some time. And they'll come about it their way, and they won't be pressured into it. And we know that from the Martha Burke scenario and the protests years ago. And they will not be pressured by outside influences. They will do this on their own. So how that unfolds, I suspect, give it a couple more seasons, and they will implement some sort of creators' influence, and maybe that's just allowing them to be on the property, and but at the same time. You look at their broadcast, right? They go minimal commercials. They have their methodology. I think it's going to be hard for them to consider how they implement it. They're not going to let these influencers go wander around the site and film while they're on the course. As we know, there's strict regulations on the grounds. So we'll see. We'll see. It won't be this year, but
I think it certainly beats Media Day. And for what the legacy golf media does for the game, I think this needs to be sort of a split now between legacy golf media and golf influencers, bringing in that new generation of golfers to watch everything.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to end the show, Mike. Special thanks to our sponsors, Evolve Creative Solutions, creating our web design, Paradox Golf, the all-in-one golf cart, Shape and Swelter, Raphael Golf Academy, Lagmaster, I'm really excited about all these partnerships that we have. Make sure you go to our website, become a TGP member or partner with us. And it's an easy way to do that is just to go on our website, click on the membership, and you could go into our site that allows you to become a member through Patreon. And you could just, donate $1 a month, or you could become an official patron at $10 a month. It helps us get this cast better and stronger. Of course, you hear this everywhere, but try to follow, subscribe, and share on any platform that you watch this on, or just go to YouTube and follow us there.
Yeah, especially YouTube. We need some love over there. So thank you for joining us. For those of you that are still here, we really appreciate